What's up, folks? So, we've got a guy called Ranveer Allahabadia, popularly known as Bia Biceps. Oh, sorry, that's what he calls himself. From a physical fitness and, exercises kind of channel, he's gone all the way to spirituality. And he has this podcast where he talks to a lot of spirituality folks, spiritual individuals, and that podcast is pretty popular in India. There's this podcast episode where he's talking about how from a former atheist he started believing in God. Let's have a look at that.
Years old when I almost died, and in my childhood that was probably the closest I've ever felt to God. It kind of also changed my perception a little bit. Between 8th and 9th grade, I was surrounded by a lot of my friends who were very fascinated by atheism. And there was this cool guy group in class, and of course I was a part of it. Everyone was talking about atheism, and I just sat with that concept for a bit because I'd been brought up in a very spiritual family.
Okay.
And you're kind of experimenting with rebellion as a teenager. So I thought atheism, there is an argument for it. Like, I've not experienced God. I don't, it maybe it doesn't exist. Maybe it's only science and it's only what we are.
Yeah.
And it's the world we know. Cut to this Jaipur trip where we were going from Jaipur to Ranthambore. I was sitting on the first seat of a bus. Okay. And there's people behind me. Everyone's playing these games, mafia and those kind of games in the bus. Someone's playing dumb charades. Someone's doing something else. I was just insanely sleepy that day for some reason. I had slept well, but I remember being really sleepy. So I didn't want to be a part of the game. I went to the first seat and sat right behind where the bus driver sits. Okay. Great kind of drive from Jaipur to Ranthambore. Feeling super sleepy. Myself and my vice principal went to sleep on the first seat. Okay. And while I'm at the peak of my sleep, I hear like screams behind me. Okay. And I hear some of my friends, I can identify their voices. And these girls behind me are going, oh, and I wake up with that. Okay, so my eyes open and I see a bus coming straight at us. Like, there's a bus right in front of me. The only thing that separates that bus from me is the bus driver. Our guy couldn't see the bus coming from the other side, was trying to overtake a vehicle on the other side. And just when the buses were about to touch, our bus driver kind of turned the bus. So this other bus hit my bus or our bus behind.
Okay.
The impact was not head on, it was behind. What that led to was that our bus kind of lost control. Then the guy tried controlling it a bit and rammed into a tree. This happened over maybe 10 seconds. What I remember is I remember the scream. Okay. I don't know what happened to me, but it was one of those zones where everything slowed down a bit. I quickly looked behind to understand what's happening. Like, the moment I realized, we're in an accident. So the moment he turned, my immediate impulse was to look behind. Maybe it's the martial arts at play where you're so aware of your body and your surroundings. So I looked behind. I saw that the people who were playing dumb charades, the other games, everyone was slightly injured. Someone had a cut on their face. Someone was bleeding from their mouth. Someone had a cut on their head. Nothing happened to me. But the second impact was about to happen. And I'm not making this up. And I'm not spoken about this online.
I'm sorry I haven't commented till now, but I wanted to hear the story fully.
The vice principal, she fell off her seat because of the first contact. And she was on the floor. And again, martial arts at play, probably God at play. I don't know what happened. I became hyper aware, and between the first and the second contact, there was about 4 seconds. I quickly went and kind of pushed her back on her seat. And then we crashed into the tree. The driver got
Ranveer
very badly injured. He was rushed to a hospital. There was blood all over the front seat. The glass that separates me and the driver, it shattered, but I don't know how the glass didn't fall on me. It fell on him. Okay. And at that moment, between those two crashes, that's why I became aware of God. I'm struggling to even talk about it. I don't know what I felt in that moment.
Yeah, that's probably because you're trying to... I don't want to say you're making up a lot of things in the story, but I think you're exaggerating the story a bit. mean, if me or I'm sure anyone watching would be in that situation, in a few seconds of time, they wouldn't be able to pull off these heroic, feats of courage like you did. But okay.
I saw that my vice principal's safe on her seat, and I kind of kicked back in my senses, looked behind, and all my friends are crying. People are bleeding. There's broken glass everywhere. Someone's fainted. I can see someone's fucking body, just lying down on the window. Okay, and I turn around and I see a picture of Hanumanji, which for me that time was my image of God. It still is in many ways. But and I'm unscratched. Nothing. While I'm on the front seat of a bus, and even my vice principal is relatively unhurt. And she comes up to me and says, "Thank you, I realized what you did." Okay, and I got out of the bus, and there's another picture of Hanumanji again at a dhaba that we've crashed near.
Wait, I will comment on this. I know I haven't made any major comments till now, but I'm waiting for the story to finish.
On the dhaba, people are freaking out. They're like, "We just saw a huge accident. What is happening here?" I got out of the bus. I realized, oh wait, my friends are inside. Went and picked up one of my friends, got him out of the bus. Brought him out. People come out. Everyone's bleeding. I don't know what got into me. But I went to a part of the dhaba that was just empty, and I sat down and prayed. And my atheism died there.
Unbelievable.
There was not one atheist cell in my body after that.
Okay.
What?
Okay, let's stop here and I'm gonna start commenting. So first thing, he's narrating an incident from his life and an experience from his life which led to him believing in something supernatural, some god or something that protected him. And anytime you're using your own personal experience or someone else's experience to conclude something, that experience is a kind of evidence, but it's a sample of one. It's called anecdotal evidence. And there are a lot of ways that you could go wrong with that conclusion. Like this particular example could have happened because of a lot of reasons. It need not be God saving him or whatever. Just the way the crash happened, it just happened by chance that he was sitting in a part of the bus that wasn't heavily damaged in the accident. And also, why should God save him? Why? What makes him special? What makes all the other people in the bus who suffered really bad injuries not worth God's saving, right? So he's taking the fact that he got saved as an example, as a reason why God exists. And for all the other people, their injuries, God decided not to save them. So he's taking what's convenient and leaving out what goes against what he believes. That's cherry picking. And I'm sure a lot of parts of the story, a lot of incidents that he narrated in the story are extrapolations, are huge exaggerations. I'm sure he wouldn't have seen a lot of images of God right before and right after the crash or whatever he said. Those are all exaggerations. I'm sure there's no way for me to prove it, but I'm sure those are exaggerations. That makes the story and the conclusion of the story a little more appealing. These are two immediate flaws that I can spot with this.
My best friend cut his tongue in half. Someone else had to get stitches across their face. Someone else had a jaw injury which troubles them even today. This was 14 years ago, 15 years ago.
Right.
Nothing happened to me other than my atheism dying. And that's the closest I felt to God.
Yeah. No, I think
it's a very poor conclusion to make. See, I'm an atheist. But I have a lot of difficulties in life. I have a medical condition, which I'm not gonna talk about, which makes the quality of life a little hard for me. I mean, very hard. I'm sorry, not little hard, very hard for me. But that doesn't make me a theist praying to God, hoping for it to go away. I'm aware of how things work in the world. If I'm making a conclusion like praying to God can help cure my medical condition, based on what am I making that conclusion? I want to see evidence that whatever I do, even if it's praying, can actually result in something. I've never seen that. And but despite all this, I'm actually really fortunate in many other aspects of life. So should I be happy? should I attribute all that to God, or should I attribute this negative aspect of my life to God? Isn't it a much more valid conclusion that there is none of this that happened as a result of God or giving me those things? These are just things that happened by chance. Isn't that a much more valid conclusion? I think so.
I mean, it's amazing how you were so mindful and you're still mindful. A lot of people forget these things. And this is what we call as divine grace. Like everyone has divine grace. No one can explain how they got safely to work today. Why weren't they in that train accident? Why weren't they in that flight which crashed? It's divine grace. I was with a surgeon in New York a couple of days ago. Young guy. He's a pediatric transplant surgeon. So he does transplants on 2-year-olds and 1-year-olds and stuff. And he was saying, so we were talking about spirituality and God and stuff. I said, do you believe in God, spirituality and stuff? He said, Luke, I used to be the most egoistic surgeons. Most surgeons are egoistic is what he said. Because we're given that control, life and death in our hands. Saying every time I cut open a human body, all I see is the intelligence of God. Because as a surgeon...
Man, when I cut open the human body, I never do that. Police don't arrest me. But if you look at the human body, there are a lot of flaws. I've spoken about the laryngeal nerve before. It goes from the brain around the aorta, which is an artery from the heart, and comes back to the larynx. What kind of really poor design is that? At a stage in our evolution, when you go back several generations, your great several times grandfather was a fish. And at that point in our evolution, brain to larynx around the aorta made sense. It's not a very long path. When those fishes evolved into mammals and became us, this became a meaningless path. But that's how we were in that stage in our evolution, and that's why that trait exists in us. This becomes very extreme in the case of animals like giraffes. It goes all the way from the nerve, laryngeal nerve, goes all the way from the head, along the neck, all the way down to the chest of the giraffe, around the aorta, and comes back up all the way along the neck. How is that intelligent design?
And we know what we're doing is what we're doing, but we see the intelligence of the veins and the arteries coming in, pumping and saying, I just see God every time I open a body. You call it spiritual, you call it what you want. But that intelligence in us, even while we're all awake right now, there's no reason that our body has to be working every second of the day and night to keep us alive. That's intelligence. That is a superpower. So when people don't have answers for all of these things, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist just because we don't understand it.
That is a God of the gaps argument and an appeal to ignorance. Just because I don't know, I think this is what could be happening. And God of the gaps is when you say there's something mysterious happening over here, God did it. When you try to fill the gap in your knowledge with God.
I mean, like, if just because people don't understand psychedelics doesn't mean that it isn't good. So understanding plays a huge role. And when you're mindful enough to see everything unexplained, how does this plant in a room create energy? How does the touch?
We know the answers to those questions. Just because you personally don't know doesn't make it valid when you explain that with God.
Of someone that you love have a healing effect. How does the smile of a child melt you or make you feel so good? All of these are unexplained.
We evolved with such traits. Those traits were beneficial to have for a child to actually be pleasing to the parents, to look cute. That's a trait that we evolved with because that improved the survival chances of the kid.
Science cannot explain it. It's
Yes,
a
it
superpower.
can.
And those who are humble and respectful of that superpower are protected and guided.
Yeah, right. No one else is protected. I have those fortunate things in life. I have this YouTube channel. I'm able to do what I love for a living. Not many people get to do that. But I'm able to do that all thanks to a God. Not because of my hard work, not because I enabled myself to be in this situation, not because of, all the planning and all the thinking and all the steps I took in the past. This is not something that happened overnight. This took a lot of careful planning and several years of work to get here where I am. all that did not happen because of any God. It happened purely because of my hard work. Forgive me if I sound all conceited and selfish when I say that, but it did. Okay, that's it for this video, I guess. I'll see you in the next one.